Hey, how you doing? Let's talk about this game update because if you've been spending time with MLB The Show 25, you probably already know how often these patches come through and how they can sometimes feel small on the surface, but actually carry more weight once you really get into the details. Update 1.025 just dropped, and at first glance, it looks like one of those lighter updates. But I want to walk you through every single piece, expand on what it could mean for players, and give you a sense of where this game might be headed as we move deeper into the season. I'm going to take my time here and really break things down in a way that feels like a conversation rather than just reading off a list of patch notes. Think of it like you and I are sitting around talking baseball, gaming, and how those two worlds collide with a game like this. So the headline additions this time are pretty simple. New gear, some updated player models, and those ever-present stability and performance improvements. Now, I know the phrase stability improvements might sound boring because you've probably seen it in literally every single patch since the dawn of gaming. But the truth is, it's the backbone of why this game feels smooth one day and slightly off the next. Think about those moments when you're in the middle of a ranked game. Tension is high, and suddenly there's a stutter right when you swing. That's the kind of thing stability updates are meant to minimize. And while we don't always see exactly what's going on under the hood, those little tweaks stack up over time to give you a smoother experience overall. Now let's talk gear, because this is actually one of the areas where San Diego Studio has been putting in consistent effort. With update 1.025, we've got the Adidas Adizero Impact 2.0 cleats being added, along with some flashy Franklin CFX Pro batting gloves in coral reef and watermelon. On paper, it's just cosmetic content, right? But when you step back and think about how much time people spend customizing their Road to the Show player, or even just putting together a certain look for Diamond Dynasty, this stuff starts to matter more than you'd expect. For the casual player, it might just be, oh cool, some new gloves. But for the diehards who want their player to look exactly like a real-life counterpart or stand out in a creative way, this is fuel for creativity. I've seen entire YouTube channels dedicated to creating certain MLB legends, fictional players, or just wild drip combinations. So these new equipment drops become tools for expression. And that brings me to the bigger point. These cosmetic updates are also a way the devs keep the game connected to the real MLB season. We know Adidas and Franklin are out there dropping new designs in the real world, so when they make it into the show, it keeps that sense of realism alive. It's kind of like how roster updates aren't just about stats, they're also about reflecting how the league evolves over time. Same idea with gear. If a player steps out on the field wearing a new set of gloves, you better believe people want to replicate that in the game. Speaking of players, we also got some specific model updates in this patch. Tony Gonsolin and Jacob Misiorowski both had their models updated, which might seem like a minor detail, but actually plays a big role in immersion. Player likeness has always been one of those things sports games are judged on. When a guy looks off, even if it's just something about the hair, the facial structure, or even the way his stance is animated, it pulls you out of the experience. Updating models keeps the game aligned with reality, and in Tony Gonsolin's case especially, fans are always quick to notice when something feels outdated. Same for Misiorowski. These updates mean if you're a fan of those players, you get that little thrill of recognition when they step onto the mound. It's subtle, but it adds up. Now, where I think some of the deeper conversation comes in is the overall philosophy of these mid-cycle updates. San Diego Studios seems to be walking this fine line between pushing major gameplay patches and sprinkling in these smaller cosmetic or model-focused ones. Sometimes the community gets frustrated because they want the big overhauls, the kind that change hitting mechanics, pitching balances, or fielding animations, but those aren't going to drop every single week. What we're seeing here with 1.025 is more of a quality of life style patch that smooths edges, adds flair, and keeps things fresh without upending the core gameplay loop. And that's not to say there aren't gameplay implications here. Anytime you hear performance improvements in a patch note, that can potentially mean less input lag, fewer oddball fielding errors caused by animation hitches, and generally more consistency across different consoles. For example, if you're playing on PS5 and your buddy is on Xbox Series X, ideally both experiences should feel nearly identical. But in practice, small performance hiccups can create unfair advantages. A patch like this helps level that out, even if it doesn't make headlines the same way a massive gameplay tweak would. So if you're asking yourself, is this a patch I should care about? My answer is yes, but maybe not for the reasons you think. You care about it because the foundation of your experience just got a little stronger. You care about it because customization just got a little deeper. And you care about it because two players who deserved better digital representation now look more like their real-life selves. It's not the kind of patch that's going to rewrite how you approach Diamond Dynasty or make you rethink your pitching strategy, but it is the kind that slowly but surely improves your everyday experience with the game. Now let's zoom out a little bit because part of making sense of an update like this is seeing how it fits into the bigger rhythm of the year. MLB The Show tends to drop larger gameplay patches after community feedback reaches a boiling point, usually when certain exploits or mechanics dominate the meta. In between those larger patches, we get updates like this one, which keep the game fresh without risking unintended consequences. And let's be honest, sports gamers have long memories when it comes to patches gone wrong. Nobody wants another update that breaks hitting or suddenly makes pitching feel unplayable. That's why sometimes a smaller update is actually the smart move. Let me give you an example from a player perspective. Say you're grinding ranked seasons, and you've just dialed in your swing timing. If a massive gameplay patch suddenly changed swing windows, you'd feel thrown off for days. But if instead the devs roll out an update like 1.025, your timing stays intact, but your Road to the Show player gets to wear some fresh gloves, and maybe you notice games feel a little smoother because of those performance tweaks. That's a win without the stress of relearning muscle memory. Now, I also want to touch on how updates like this keep the community talking. When a new cleat or glove design hits the game, it's not just about the item itself. It sparks conversations, content creation, and even marketplace activity. Some players immediately hop into Diamond Dynasty and start building theme teams that reflect those brands. Others make tutorials on how to style your player like a real-life star. It's this ripple effect that gives even a small patch more impact than you might think. The same goes for player model updates. If you're a Dodgers fan, seeing Gonsolin updated might feel like a small victory. It tells you the developers are paying attention. And that attention matters because it builds trust. Players want to know their favorite athletes are represented properly, and these updates reinforce that connection. Let's be real though, some people are always going to roll their eyes at a patch like this and say, that's it, just some gloves and cleats. But I'd argue those are the same people who would complain if their favorite gear wasn't included, or if player models stayed outdated all year. It's one of those situations where you don't notice the value until it's missing. So where do I see this heading? Well, if history repeats itself, we'll probably get another update soon with deeper gameplay tweaks, maybe something addressing pitching stamina, defensive animations, or hitting consistency. But for now, 1.025 serves as a stabilizer. It's the kind of patch that makes you feel like the devs are quietly maintaining the game, smoothing out rough edges, and keeping everything in tune before they go for the next big adjustment. And that's really the beauty of a live service sports game. It evolves constantly, not just with rosters, but with the small touches that keep it relevant. Every update is like another inning in a long game. Sometimes it's a highlight reel moment with a big gameplay fix. Other times it's a clean single up the middle that just keeps the rally alive. This patch feels like one of those solid base hits. It won't make the headlines of SportsCenter, but it keeps the team moving forward. I know for some of you, the most exciting thing here really is the gear. The Adidas Adizero Impact 2.0 cleats especially will probably get a lot of use because they're sleek, modern, and tied to a brand that baseball fans recognize instantly. And those Franklin gloves in coral reef and watermelon, you're going to start seeing those pop up everywhere online. They're colorful, they stand out, and they give players more ways to show off their style. If you're streaming or making content, that kind of visual flair matters because it makes your player pop on screen. Meanwhile, if you're someone who focuses more on immersion, the player model updates will probably stand out to you the most. You know how it is. You load into a franchise game, see a player who looks nothing like his real counterpart, and suddenly you're pulled out of that suspension of disbelief. Fixes like this help the game look and feel authentic.